what's up, man?
Hey, Cody, what's going on, brother?
I'm good. Yeah, having a good day. I'm outside today at a public library, actually. My son's in zoo camp, and this was the best spot. It was cooler than my car, so here I am. I think it's a good spot. But
Is it
yeah,
as
good to
windy
talk to you,
there
man.
as it is here? Because it is feels like a hurricane's blowing out there in the Gulf right now. It is windy.
Really? Well, I'll tell you one thing. I live in Pensacola. It's not windy here right now, but yesterday, I think evening, it was pretty breezy, and it was kinda weird. I told my son
Mhm.
it feels like we're on the coast or something right now, at the
Yeah.
beach. So, something going on. Anyways, tell me your name, first, last name, the name of the place, and tell me about, like, the classes you guys offer, the age groups, that kinda stuff first.
Okay. So my name's Matt Lee. I'm the owner and head black belt at Bayside Jiu Jitsu, located here in Eastpoint, Florida. We are under my professor, Professor Vic Rosati. He started his own team called Warrior Academy. He's got probably 4 or 5 gyms in Georgia. He's got us. He's got Louisiana, one in Minnesota. Was initially Gracie Baja, kind of broke off to do his own thing about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. We can dive into that if you'd like. But yeah, we I know we'll dive into this as well. We started in my garage because I moved here a few years ago, and there were no gyms close by. So it just started off me and my buddies just kind of messing around, really. And then we
Yeah.
moved into a facility 2 years after doing that. Started with kids classes, adult classes. Didn't really do a whole lot of MMA, but we were pretty competition heavy because I come from a pretty competition heavy gym. And so we really started doing that. And I had some students really show interest in MMA. So now we do have an MMA program. I wouldn't necessarily call it a program. We just have the guys who are interested in MMA. We do some special time with them. And we have also partnered with an MMA gym out in Panama City called All in One MMA. They're also under the Warrior flag like we are. And we cross train with them all the time. They either come out here, we go out there. They're really good with striking and wrestling. We obviously bring jiu-jitsu to the table, and combined, we've been able to put out some really good competitors, some really good MMA fighters. Um, we used to have a 4 to 7 year old class. We were doing that for a while, for several years. And then my helpers became new dads, my purple belts. And so it was just me with like 24-year-olds and 25-year-olds. It got tough. So the ones that I could tell really wanted to be there, we bumped them up to the kids program, the other kids program. And so
Okay.
now that time that's for those 4 to 7 year olds has been allotted to my MMA fighters. And we do a little more competition style training there. So we're there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So 4 days a week. Um, I got some students that got keys. They go get after it, 5 or 6 days a week. But I got another business I run. I've got a family, so I can only be about 4 days a week over there.
Yeah, yeah. So only Mondays and Fridays and Sundays, is that right? You're off. What is
Pretty
there?
much, yeah.
And then, do y'all do gi and no gi with jujitsu?
We do. We do. We kind of do it seasonally because it's so hot here in the Panhandle. We do basically like late part of spring, all through summer, and a little bit of fall is mostly no gi, and then we get back into the gi. But that being said, on Wednesdays, which is our competition nights, and on Saturdays at open mat, we train both because we don't want to, dull the skill sets there. Because if you do no gi for so long, I've been guilty of it too, especially in a competition. Your instincts kick in, and you can quickly go for a reap in the gi. And oh, I'm sorry, what am I supposed to do that? You can get disqualified.
Okay.
So,
I
because the
see,
rule
I see.
sets are different. The gripping is a little different, so we want to keep all that sharp. So we do train both, but again, being summer, we're a little more no gi heavy right now.
Got it. Can you tell everybody, where is East Point?
Yeah, so we're kind of equidistant between Tallahassee and Panama City Beach. People who have been to this area would know St. George Island. So we're literally a bridge away from St. George Island. And in fact, some of my students live on St. George Island. But yeah, right there in between Panama and Tallahassee on 98.
And
So
you're on the
little
coastline,
little
is that
fishing
correct?
difference. Sir?
You're on the coastline close to the water, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I can actually see the bay from where I'm sitting right now.
Okay, got it, got it, got it, got it. Okay, one thing I wanna hit on, this is kinda a little silly, but you said, when you were talking about, so, there's certain times that, like, something that I don't completely understand, and I'm going to point it out because I want people who don't train to kind of understand these things. They might have these kind of questions. When you're talking about, training gi when you're usually no gi or whatever you're saying, and you do something on incorrectly. What was that? Can you explain? Were you talking about trying to pull on a gi, or what were you saying there?
Both. Both. So the specific example was reaping, which is essentially when you're like a leg
Oh, that's
entanglement
the word. What's that mean? Yeah,
and
that's the word. Yeah.
your heel, so imagine having your heel on your opponent's pocket. Like, so you're on your back, they're standing up, or they're on their butt. Your heel's at their pocket, and there's not a lot of
Yeah.
pressure on their knee, and that's totally legal. In gi, you're never ever allowed to take your heel towards their center line because that applies too much pressure on the knee. Again, that's illegal. That's a reap. You can get disqualified like that. However, in no-gi, especially when you get into intermediate advanced, where heel hooks, certain submissions that are legal for more like purple, brown, especially brown and black, that are not legal for white and blue, um, reaps are necessary because that causes heel exposure. So you need to run reap if you're a leg lock guy or gal. But then the gripping, so in the gi, as you can imagine, you've got handles everywhere. You've got collars and sleeves and lapels. In no-gi, there's nothing to grab onto other than meat. Like, you need to have wrist control, collar ties, underhooks, and there's different ways to control another human. And as the further into the match it goes, the sweatier everything gets. So you got to have good grips because you still need to maintain control. That's one thing we preach at our gym all the time, is that position before submission type thing, and being able to control someone. And so again, the gripping is definitely different in gi and no-gi.
One thing I think people might, who have never done it before. I don't practice, and I like having this perspective, talking to you guys, because I can come from their perspective. But maybe some people misunderstand that, no-gi is for training for real life stuff. But with the gi on, the gi replicates a loose shirt or a jacket, right? Is that
Correct.
correct? Yeah. So
Yeah,
that of
so
course can be applied
this
as well.
this is a very active debate in the community. It probably
Yeah.
always will be.
Yeah.
So ostensibly, you could say no-gi is more realistic. That being said, a lot of your best no-gi guys are leg lockers. So they're pulling guard, they're sitting on their butt, they're scooting and getting underneath someone to go for heel hooks or whatever leg entanglement they want that would result in, say a heel hook. That's not good for self-defense. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
what I preach at my gym is, especially with my newer folks, whites and blues, our goal is to win the takedown, get on top, stay on top. Because no matter what you're wearing, that's going to translate into self-defense down the road. If you're an expert leg locker but have zero takedowns, have zero basic self-defense skills, what are you going to butt scoot in a street fight?
Yeah.
So and I got two guys that they're my best buds. They've been with me since day one. They're purple belts now, active competitors. They hate the gi. They hate it. And they always say it's not realistic. I'm like, okay, but when you just sat on your butt and scooted towards me, you would, okay, all right. And you go
Yeah.
back to like the early MMA days, with like Hoist Gracie, he was doing everything in the gi against guys who were bigger than him, who were wearing no clothing at all other than like, some pants or whatever. And my
Mhm.
professor would always argue, in fact, my professor made his MMA guys train a lot in the gi because in the gi, there's more friction. There's way more things to hold on to. So you almost have to be, and I know I'm gonna get some stuff for this. You almost have to be more technical, especially when it comes to like escaping and control, in the gi than no gi, because in no gi you can rely a little bit more on slipperiness or explosiveness.
Yeah.
Um,
As far as like somebody grabbing onto you yourself. Yeah.
right,
Not talking about
right.
you grabbing
So
onto somebody else. Them grabbing onto
there's,
you. Right.
and I truly believe there's benefits to both. If you compete in both, you definitely should train in both. I make my MMA fighters train gi as well. Um, but the whole like, if I were defending myself right now and a guy has on a tank top, I'm not going to try to grab his collars on his tank top and go for a baseball bat choke. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to blast double or single leg him or use some judo, get them to the ground, get on top, get the dominant position, and see what happens. See what I can do next. Hopefully nothing. Hopefully I can just control, and that's kind of the end of it. But that mindset of winning a takedown, getting on top, staying on top, you need to have that mindset at gi and no gi.
When you're talking about takedowns, are you applying like wrestling to
Re-
jujitsu or judo
wrestling and
only or
judo,
both? Yeah.
wrestling and judo.
Okay.
Um, we see this with guys who come from wrestling background. They'll do things like stick their head on the outside for like a single leg. Well, if your opponent knows jiu-jitsu, you're giving them a guillotine. So even with wrestling, we still have to modify it to a degree for MMA or for jiu-jitsu. And there's
At least
also no
competition,
gi.
right? Yeah. Somebody else who knows
Correct.
jujitsu. Yeah.
Exactly. And then same with judo. You don't have the collars and the sleeves to grab onto, so you have to modify your judo.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing MMA, you have to be able to close that distance, get to that clinch, work your underhooks or whatever type of throw you're going for, whether it's an uchimata or just a basic hip toss. You got to modify all that when depending on the rule set, essentially, or the environment.
Mhm. Okay. Well, get into your story. Go back as far as you want. You can tell us, how you got into it and all that stuff.
So, Cody, how much time do we have? Do you want the abridged
As long as
version, or do
you
you want
want,
the
bro. Whatever
what's
you
that?
want to do. I'm just
Okay,
sitting in a park. I feel good. As there is a breeze
okay,
now. So yeah.
sweet. All
If the
right,
breeze
so
goes away, I'll tell you to wrap it up.
all right, so I've been doing martial arts for about 21 years now. I started Taekwondo. If you hear that, that's my ice maker in the background. Sorry. I started Taekwondo when I was like 5 or 6. I started with baseball, didn't love it, and at the time, Three Ninjas is on, Surf Ninjas is
Mhm.
popular, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, you name it.
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm gonna be a ninja." So we found a Taekwondo school like 20 minutes from my house, and I loved it. It became my passion, and I competed a lot in that too, and it became my life. I mean, when I say I competed, I was state tournaments, qualified for nationals as a black belt when I was 13, 14, and 15. So I was traveling all over the country, fighting the best guys in my weight class and black belts and age groups at the Junior Olympics. But at that point, 15, about to be 16, my priorities kind of shifted. I'm in high school. I would say I was a little burnt out on, 4 or 5 days a week of constant taekwondo. So I started getting track, started doing, getting a little, I was a grocery bagger for a while, just trying to make some money so I could take my girlfriend out to the movies or whatever. Fast forward about 10 years, went to college, went to graduate
What
school,
What did you like about taekwondo as a kid?
breaking boards and flipping around and, doing the stuff I
Being a
saw on
ninja.
TV. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of what was the mindset. I want to be a ninja. And
My
again,
son
playing
has
Mortal
a
Kombat.
wooden katana right now from Timu.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we did sword forms too. I have a sword. When I got my black belt, I got a 440 stainless sword from Korea. Still
Oh,
have it.
what?
Still cherish it. Um, yeah, still love that thing. Still have a lot of connection to it. So anyway, life happens. I move off to school and all that. And when I was like 25, 26, I had this itch. I'm like, man, I kind of miss martial arts. Um, And so I'm looking at Google and I'm like, well, do I want to get back into Taekwondo or do I want to explore some other stuff? Because at that point, I was already second degree black belt, had done it for like 10 years. And I'm looking at all these different martial arts academies that are kind of on my commute because I knew I could, because I already had an hour commute. I didn't want to go way off the highway to find something. And I found a couple of jujitsu schools, didn't know much about jujitsu back then, wasn't really into the UFC much. Honestly, I'm still not really into UFC much. Like I nerd out on jujitsu, even though I train MMA fighters. UFC comes on past my bedtime. But yeah, man, I found kung fu, I found taekwondo, I found Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I just started watching YouTube videos on it. And that's kind of where I kind of stumbled upon Hoist Gracie, some of the early garage challenge matches, and then the dojo storms were like these, high level karate guys who busted into this Gracie Academy. You got the scrawny Pedro Sauer just taking them down and making them, do whatever, like tap out. And I was like, that is really cool. I think I want to try that.
Tell us what that was. That was really happening, or that was a? I think I know the answer, but just tell everybody and tell me as well, because maybe I don't. Was that
Yeah,
something that
so
was really happening? Was, like, karate guys just, like, going into their academies and to see what happens, that kinda thing? Is that what that was?
yeah. No, it really happened. And you can find YouTube videos on it. I mean, there's real blood and they're really punching and kicking and pulling hair. And essentially what it was is like back then, karate was everything. Everybody's doing karate and there was like big karate tournaments and Karate Kid was huge. And nobody knew what this jiu-jitsu was because it was down in Brazil. Well, fast forward to, we'll say like the late 80s, especially the early 90s, um, a lot of the Gracie family moved to Southern California. And there's stories of like, Elio Gracie going out in the streets and like, I'll give $20 to anybody who wants to fight me, blah, blah. And so, word starts spreading. And yeah, you would have these karate guys or boxers or kung fu guys or whatever literally just show up and challenge the Gracies to fights. And it was kind of no rules. I mean, you probably couldn't eye gouge or anything, but it was like no gloves, no mouthpieces. I'm sure they weren't signing waivers. and
Yeah.
you just see these like scrawny Brazilian guys just dominating. And then you obviously Hoist Gracie with the early UFC really put it on the map. I want to say that was 1991 or 1993. But you had Hoist Gracie just submitting these huge dudes who were, not only muscular and taller and bigger and imposing, but also had martial arts backgrounds. And so at that point, it was like, this is the petri dish. This is where we're going to like test which martial art truly shines and is truly effective against whatever body size there is. So being, I'm 5'7", a buck 60, so I'm like, this jujitsu might be up my alley. So I checked out a school or two on the way, and they were cool. But it wasn't until I walked into Professor Vick's school, which ironically was like skateboarding distance from my house. So it was not only like
Wow.
super close to my house, I actually did ride my longboard there a lot. At the moment I walked in, man, I was just like, all right, these guys are over here getting after it. But then Professor Vick and his wife are just so welcoming and so cool and so genuine. Sat down and had like an hour-long conversation on why I was interested in jiu-jitsu and martial arts. Took my free class and that was it. That's all it took. One class and I was hooked. And I was there for 6 years. Got my purple belt up there.
Take us back
Uh,
to, when you first started, like, just kinda give us a glimpse into what you were thinking when you first, tried it out.
man,
What was kinda like, was there a big difference in what you had done before? What
oh,
surprised you about it? Was there anything
a
you didn't
hundred,
like about it? All that kinda stuff.
no, 100%. It was cool to be back in the kimono. So we call it a dobak and take one about the Korean, the gi, we call that dobak. So I just remember putting my gi on, my kimono and tying my belt. I was like, it feels good to be back in the kimono. And I'll never forget the
Yeah.
first class, we started in mountain, we're doing basic collar chokes, basic cross collar chokes. And we did like 2 collar chokes and then a collar choke into an arm bar when they defend. And I was like, this is obviously way different than Taekwondo. I'm used to doing 360 kicks and, head kicks. And now I'm on the ground, like choking this guy with his own clothes, but I loved it. And I think it was like 2 months in, I'm at an open mat. Back then I was like a buck 75. I was lifting heavy all the time. And this little yellow belt, which for those who don't know is like 3 belts in for the junior program. It's like white, gray, but it's gray, white, solid gray, black, yellow, white, solid yellow, yellow, black. Anyway, so he's been training for a few years. He's like 13, 14 years old, scrawny kid. We go to slap bump. I'm like, I'm about to just destroy this
And
kid. He
how old were
pulled
you at
me
the
to
time? How old were you?
26, 27.
Okay, okay. He's a teenager?
And
Yeah, got it.
yeah, half my age and I mean, he was taller than me, but he was, skinny. I outweighed him by a lot. He
Mhm.
triangle choked me so fast. I just remember, like, I didn't even know what happened. I hadn't learned triangle chokes yet. All I knew is I'm like this, and his legs wrapped around my head, and I'm tapping because I'm starting to black out. And I'm like, okay,
Oh,
I don't know
you're
what that
starting to black
was,
out?
but we're gonna stick with this because this freaking works. So yeah, that was kind of my introduction to it. Man, I just kind of jumped in there. And again, I missed being in a dojo, for lack of a better term. We called it a dojong in Taekwondo. We called it academy or a gym now in Jiu-Jitsu. Felt good to be back in the kimono, back to a martial art routine, being surrounded by good people, folks who just want to train and have a good time. And then when I got choked out by this kid, I was like, yeah, we're gonna stick with this. And then yeah, man, I got, like I said, I got my purple belt through Professor Vic up there. But when I was a blue belt, um, my wife and I kind of faced some serious adversity. Man, we our first born boy, his name was Bennett. He passed away. He was born at 24 weeks. He lived for 1 day, literally the worst day of our life. And about a week and a half, 2 weeks after he passed, I'm like, Megan, if I'm gonna, that's my wife, I gotta go back to the gym. Like I gotta do. I can't just sit here and stare at the wall and be sad. You know, if I'm gonna take care of you, I gotta take care of myself too. So I started
Mhm.
kind of getting back into it after a week and a half, 2 week hiatus, and that was another moment, man. Because as soon as I walked in, like Professor Vic hugged me, my teammates are hugging me, and that 1 hour on the mat, that kind of went away. Like the whole depression and the sadness of just losing my child is anybody as a
Mm.
father can imagine, you know, how tough that is. But being surrounded by good people and forcing yourself to focus on something positive like jujitsu for 1 hour and just sweating it out, talking with your homeboys, and just being surrounded by family. That was like another big moment. I was like, yeah, this is for me. We're gonna stick this out. This is for me. And
Why do you think jujitsu, like, brings people, so close?
well, because you are forced to roll around on the number one adversity because jujitsu's hard, right? Like it's tough. We all start off as the nail. Eventually, we become a bit of a hammer, but there's always a bigger hammer out there that reminds you you're a nail. Um, but I think it's sweating together, suffering together, having fun together. And there's a lot of, you know, you can literally kill somebody. So there's so much trust involved when you're training with someone. You know, they put you in a choke, rear naked choke, whatever, triangle, and you tap and they let go. So you build this trust with these people that you didn't know very well, but now you've been training together for a few months. You know, next thing you know, you're grabbing, you know, lunch on the weekends together, and you have this thing in common that a lot of people just don't understand how powerful it truly is, and how I don't know, just sweating together, facing adversity together, just builds really tight bonds. And
Mm.
I'm blanking on his name, but there's a book called Tribe where this news journalist embedded with like special forces, and he talks about that. He talks about how tight these people are, but it's because they're suffering together for months on end, sometimes you know a year on end, and just forces these bonds that you just can't break.
Yeah, when you're talking about trust, it's not all about, like, "Oh, they could kill me," but it's even more so about, they really could, uh, break my leg or break my arm at any
Right,
moment, or
right,
like, let's put it this way, it could happen if they're not careful or, being
yeah,
controlling themselves or whatever, and, or they could choke you out, um, so yeah, it's not always about just you being able to tap, it's also them controlling that as well, when you're training,
right,
right?
right. So a lot of trust. And again, bonds, man, just from getting there and sweating it out and grinding and suffering together. And, you know, especially like your first crop of guys or girls you start with when you're all fresh white belts, you know, and by the time you're blue belts and purple belts, you're just so tight because you've been getting beat up together for so long. And
Yep.
yeah, man, that brotherhood, sisterhood, it carried me through some tough times. But then on the flip side of that coin, I also got married, also had my other 2 boys who were here and happy and healthy, and I was doing jujitsu the whole time. So the point I'm trying to make is through the ups and downs of the last 11 years that I've been training, some of the best moments of my life occurred. Some of literally the worst moments of my life occurred, but the constant throughout all that was jujitsu. The constant throughout all that was my teammates, and you know, having somewhere to be, being surrounded by good people, getting after it, and man, it can make the good times better and the hard times better as well.
Hey, let me ask you this, for as a man, I mean, this is the same. I mean, I'm a guy, so let me say it that way, I'm sure it's for girls as well, but as a man, is it also been kinda like your I don't know if getaway is the right word, but, like, kind of like your getaway? Not that you wanna get away, but, like, your one thing that's kinda, like, just yours? And that might not be the case, maybe your whole family trains, but,
So my both I have a 7-year-old who trains as well a little bit. He trains mostly at my house with me on Sundays. He trains a little bit on Thursdays, but he's real busy with other stuff. He does a lot of therapy and stuff, so he's busy with that. But he does train a little bit. My 18-month-old is he's learning how to flop and do side control, and he loves punching and kicking stuff. So he's turning into a little martial art guy too. But
a little
I don't
something.
I don't make my kids go to jiu-jitsu 4 days a week. They do have to learn jiu-jitsu because for me, self-defense is just like swimming. It's an essential skill that I think everyone should have.
Well, that's a good way
Hopefully
to
they
look at
never
it. Yeah.
hopefully they never have to use it, but if they do, they can they'll have a skill set to do it to
Yeah.
defend
Yeah.
themselves essentially. So yeah, man, that got me to all that happened at blue belt. I was already hooked. I was already competing a lot. Get the purple belt, and we're gonna multitask real quick because I'm getting a delivery that wasn't supposed to happen till tomorrow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So
You're fine, man.
but yeah, man, we hang on one second. So yeah, I got my purple belt, and in kind of the wake of that tragedy of my son, we were looking to do something different. Thanks, man. And so we decided to move to Florida, and that's a different story, but we can get into it.
Where were you before?
And
Georgia? Was that right?
yeah, I was up in Ackworth, Georgia, and
Where's that at?
it's northwest of Atlanta.
Okay.
And we'd been vacationing in this little town called Apalachicola, Florida. And it started
Mm.
off as a joke, like one day we're going to move down there. While I was roasting coffee on my back porch, we were looking for a change anyway, so we decided to move down here and open a coffee shop. So that was the genesis of the coffee shop, and that's what got us
Oh,
down here.
how
Is it
cool, man.
16?
Did that work out? The coffee shop?
Oh
That
yeah,
sounds
man.
fun.
I'm actually getting a delivery of beans right now from Mexico and Colombia.
Okay.
uh,
What about having a coffee shop? How's that? What is that like? Is it a hard business?
oh, it's great, man. It's yeah, I've got 2 locations now. I roast all the coffee here myself. It's I wouldn't say it's hard. As long as like you're passionate about coffee, and you can
Yeah.
communicate that passion to your customers, and it's no,
Yeah.
it's been great, man. It's been great. Keeps me busy, keeps me real busy, but it's been great. But that's why we moved to Florida. And again, I was a purple belt at the time, and I think one of the hardest things about moving here, even though I was ready to get down here, ready for change, quit my corporate job, start my own thing. One of the hardest things about leaving was leaving my team and Professor Vic that I've been talking about. Because again, you become family, man. So I called Vic, told him what was going on. And all the while, after getting down here, the closest gym's in Panama City Beach. So I'm driving
Mm.
periodically 2 hours one way to go train and 2 hours back. And I noticed you had Pat Scherf on recently, and that's where I met him. Man, that's a beautiful soul right there, and one heck of a grappler. I've actually had him out here to teach seminars before. He's the real deal, bro. He's legit. Um, but yeah, I was doing that, and my wife's like, "All right, how long are you going to keep driving 4 hours and plus an hour of training? During the week, we got our baby at the house." And so we put some mats down in my garage, and I'd met some buddies through the coffee shop, and they're a lot bigger than me and a lot stronger. And they're like, "Oh, you do jujitsu? We'll go come see what's going on." And at the time, I'm a purple belt, has been competing since white, and it was all technique, But at some point, they're like, "Oh, okay, this little 5'7" dude's like taking me to the ground and choking me out." So they stuck around. And they're now purple belts. They're awesome competitors, River and Josh. And then next thing I know, we've got like
Mm.
10 guys in my garage. And my wife's like, "All right, we got to do something here because
Now
my
we got another
garage,
problem.
yeah, well, my garage had, washer and dryer over there and like nails hanging out of the wall. Super dangerous." So we found a little spot down the road. It's like 400 square foot. And I never started teaching jujitsu to make money. My coffee shop was doing that. And honestly, I would have paid the guys there I would have paid them to show up because if I don't have bodies, I can't keep training. You can only do so much with a
Okay.
grappling dummy. You got to have live
Yeah.
partners. Um, so yeah, man, we moved it out to a small gym down the road, about 400 square foot. I was charging next to nothing just to cover the rent. I didn't want to take on an extra expense. So had the rent covered. And next thing I know, we got like 40 people showing up on the 400 square foot of mat space. And we're just packed in there like sardines. So we moved to
Mm.
our location we're in now about 2 years ago. It's about 1,200 square foot. And all the while, when I decided to open up a gym, I reached back out to Vic, who he and I stayed in contact all the time. So like I said, we had about 40 folks in this 400 square foot place. We packed in there like sardines. So we moved into my new gym, which we've been there for a little over 2 years now. It's 1,200 square foot, so we've got room to grow. And all the while, we've been under Professor Vic because when I decided I wanted to open up my gym, I called him, got some
Hmm.
advice, asked him if we could continue his lineage and be under him and his guidance because he's a third degree black belt now. And he was like, "Dude, say less." Like I've been waiting on this phone call because he was keeping up with me on Facebook and Instagram. And he's saw that
Okay.
I had like 10 guys in my garage, and he's like, "I've been
Okay.
waiting on this phone call." And I
I
was
knew
like,
you'd
"Awesome."
call.
Yeah, so, since then, I achieved my brown belt through him, competed at brown belt, got my black belt last year from Professor Vic. Haven't made my black belt debut yet because I had both my ACLs reconstructed, and now I still have meniscus tears. So we're working through that, but I plan on making my black belt debut sometime this year. I had a super fight lined up a couple of weeks ago, but my opponent pulled out, so that was a
Did
bummer.
the did
But
the injuries happen in jujitsu?
man, I they happened at the gym, but I think it was the things I was doing outside the gym, like running a lot. I'm on my feet all day, and then when I'm training, especially getting ready for competition, it's 100%. And my two training partners that my primary training partners, Josh and River, they're well over 200 pounds, and wrestling 200-pound guys is not the best for your knees.
Yeah.
But actually, I think it was stuff outside the gym, but then also my brown belt debut at Naga. Um, I think is when I first started messing up. That's when I first started getting like an initial tear because my knee just went. Uh, didn't feel great, but we kept going, kept getting after it.
I was gonna
But
hit
yeah,
on like what is it like why do you want to continue training when you've been injured? What about jujitsu makes you want to keep going? I mean, I think a lot of people who haven't ever done it, you're like, oh my God, MCL tear.
yeah.
I would be done, but I think, most people who've gotten injuries, keep going with it. So why? What's the reason?
Uh,
And
Three
then also
things.
maybe hit on like, how do you like manage the pain, the injury while you're training, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think to answer your first question, it's three things. Number one, you get knocked off the horse, you got to get back on. Injuries are going to happen. You could hurt yourself playing pickleball, but it's going to happen, especially as hard as we train. Um, but I still train selfishly because it's who I am. It's I can't stop it. I have to train or else I start going a little crazy. Like I got to be at my gym. I got to be sweating. I got to be rolling with the boys. But then probably most importantly, it's my students. Like I got to be there for them. I've got
Mhm.
I've got a crop of students that have been with me since day one that were kids when they started. They were like 11 or 12 years old. Now they're 14, 15, 16, and they're awesome competitors. They win all the time, but they're there 4 days a week. And you can just see how hardworking and respectful these kids are. And obviously a lot of that starts at home. But if I can have some sort of positive influence on these folks and they can carry a little bit of this with them into their adulthood, because they're this close to like being productive members of society, whether they go off to college or become welders or whatever, that discipline, that respect, that work ethic, all of that is going to carry them so far. Like literally just going to carry them so far. And so I have to show up for myself, but I really have to show up for my students. And as far as the injuries go, man, I'm just a knuckle dragger. I'll push through them. Like I said, I took a super fight. I was going to be in the cage with two meniscus bucket handle tears on both meniscus. Um, but I was going to go, whatever. Uh,
Are you like telling people, do you tell people that like if somebody was training and they got a serious injury, is it the case where they can just like tell each person they're rolling with, hey, I got this going on, maybe give them a little
100%.
idea of how that would go? Yeah.
100%. Yeah, you got to be smart. You got to be willing to say no. Like especially after my first ACL reconstruction, there were people I just couldn't train with, and it's because they were heavy, probably didn't have enough technique to stay smart about it. You know what I mean? So um, you have to find people and be like, listen, here's what's going on.
Like
and
if
I need
somebody,
you
if
to.
that happened to somebody, should they feel embarrassed if they're
Mm-mm,
telling
no.
somebody, "Hey, I got this happening," or and maybe speak on more so like, what is the normal culture in jujitsu? Is it normal for them not to for them for them not having to feel embarrassed at a jujitsu academy, or is it normal the other way? They're going to be looked down upon.
That's going to be almost entirely dependent on the gym they're at.
Yeah,
I would say your average gym, the folks there are going to be looking out for each other. You know, if you have an injury, they're not going to roll hard. You know, they may just work some positional stuff, and they should be cool with it. If they're giving you a hard time because you're injured, like heck with them. You know, like you don't. They can go on somewhere else, right? Like, don't worry about it. But I do know, you know, at the end of the day, it's a fight culture, and I have heard at least one horror story from a buddy of mine who he was in he was in the UFC Contender Series. He trains with us when he's on vacation down here. He's an awesome guy. He's been to a couple other gyms, not around our area, where it's just like the ego in the room is insane. And it's like, do you guys even like each other? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's trash talk and not the fun banter, like legit trash talk. The occasional fight will break out. And my response to that would be, you're at the wrong gym. Now this guy's going, he's trying to go back to UFC. He needs to train wherever he can train, and he needs to be surrounded by
yeah, yeah,
really good people. But your average practitioner who has a career, you know, they got to go to work Monday, they have a family to take care of. This isn't their life in terms of like this is how they're going to provide for their family is fighting. Yeah, you got to find the right culture. You got to find the right gym. And I would say most gyms are going to have that. They're gonna have that, okay, Matt's got a bad ACL. I'm intentionally not gonna go for a heel hook on that leg, you know? Or
yeah, yeah.
if you're in a
Okay.
compromised position like half guard, and they're not gonna go for a specific pass because they know it's gonna put a lot of lateral pressure on your knee. So you gotta have it kinda circles back to, you know, the trusting your training partners, um, being able to tell someone no because you know they're spazzy, you know they have a too much ego, and a little ego is definitely healthy, especially if you compete. You need to have some ego, um, but you got to be smart too, especially if you have an injury, because at the end of the day, like those are your doctor bills you may have to pay for. That's your job. You got to go
Yeah,
to on Monday, so you got to protect yourself as well. And the right culture should support that and not,
yeah.
you know, not diminish that or make you feel
It's
some
not out
kind
of
of
the
way.
norm to like point it out that, hey, I got this going
Not
on.
at
Yeah,
all. Mhm.
yeah. Okay. I think, that might be a concern for people, especially the older you get,
Yeah.
what if I get an injury, and it's very likely that I will eventually. What happens then? Yeah.
Yeah, again, I've been doing this 11 years. I've had one student currently, and then also a training partner at my old gym. They're both approaching 70. You know, they've been working tough jobs. They got a bad back or a bad shoulder. And I'm like, listen, when it comes time to roll at the end of class, just drill. Just drill on the technique we learned today. Don't work. You don't have to roll. I
Mm,
highly encourage rolling if you're healthy and no injuries. You need to roll. But or roll with me. You know, and this sounds counterintuitive to new people, I think, but generally speaking, the more technical and the higher the rank, the safer that role is going to be because they've been there and done it. They're not going to be spazzy. They're going to let you work. They have nothing to prove. If you're a brown belt, black belt, even some purple belts, they've already put the work in. They know they can smash this white belt, especially if he's 68 years old. You know what I mean? But if you take a
yeah,
19-year-old white belt fresh off the streets, he wants to win the role. He wants to. He thinks Dana White's in the
yeah,
parking lot with a contract, and
yeah,
so no, I mean you got to be in the right culture, the right gym, and I would say most gyms that is the case. Is they're looking
mm,
out for each other. You know, tough, good training, tough training. But again, if there's an injury, I'll tell my guys like, hey, if you got this going on, just drill for a minute, ask questions. You know, don't go roll with that 18-year-old who wants to rip your head.
yeah, yeah. I keep hearing that. That's a common theme is, don't roll with the white belts if something's going on, if you can help it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, we were all there, man. You know, the ego's there. We just want to win the road.
where were we in the story now? Uh, where were we at in the story? You remember?
Yeah, man. So we kind of got all the way to opening up the bigger gym here.
Yeah.
got my black belt. We're putting out some MMA fighters now, some really good MMA fighters. Been doing MMA for about 2 or 3 years now. Um, that's it, man. A lot of competitions. We got super fights this month. We have MMA fights this month. So just getting
So let
after it.
me hit on this, like, when you're all of a sudden talking about MMA, why did you want to get into that? Why did you want to get into MMA? Because were you only doing jujitsu at first for a long time, and then
I was
now you go ahead.
yeah, I was
Well, like,
so
what's the intrigue? Yeah,
the gym I come from in Georgia called Warrior Academy, they have been MMA heavy forever. More of a jiu-jitsu gym, but for sure, put out really good MMA fighters. That was always part of the program too. But when I moved here, I was just interested in doing jiu-jitsu. I never fought MMA. So I didn't want to, brand my gym as an MMA gym because although I've been around it, although I've done a lot, two guys in particular, my old gym, I was their primary training folks in camp. We put gloves on and I would just use my jujitsu and like light strikes, whatever.
yeah,
But I think it was because I had a couple students that were interested in it. My
yeah,
my first student that was interested in it is Caden. He's a blue belt. He's like, "Man, I wanna fight. I wanna do it for a living." I was like, "Alright, well, you've already kinda proven yourself in jujitsu." He's already won so many tournaments, already won a super fight. I was like, "Let's try it," And at the time, I didn't really bring any striking to the table other than, like, my taekwondo background, which is more kicking than punching, and a lot of the kicks don't make sense in MMA, like 540 kicks, you would never wanna do that. But if you can translate a good roundhouse kick, good push kick, back kicks into an MMA variation, it can be very effective. But around that same time is when we kind of linked up with the MMA gym in Panama. Uh, one of my students' dads was selling a side by side, or I think he was buying one. I can't remember. So he drives out to Panama to this guy named Jacob's house. Jacob owns All Out One MMA. He's an MMA fighter, wrestling background, striking background, not a whole lot of jujitsu, especially formal jujitsu, but like kind of just enough to get by. But really good wrestler, really good striker. And Alan, the guy that's on the side by side, pulls up and he's like, he sees this cage. He's like, dude, y'all do MMA out here? He's like, my student does jujitsu at Bayside. We should all like get together. Next thing I know, Jacob shows up to my gym with like 7 or 8 of his guys who are all again all MMA fighters. They all got their good striking. Um, two of the guys did have some like formal jujitsu, but they had joined Jacob after they started their jujitsu journey. And if it felt like a dojo storm because I'm just sitting there at the mats at my
yeah, yeah,
open mat on a Wednesday, and these 8 guys from Panama rolled in like looking hungry. But it was awesome, dude. Like they were tough guys, but they were super humble, super respectful. And man, we just all got along. We just got along. We both had similar goals in terms of like let's build up this MMA program together so it can really dominate the Panhandle. Because again, he had a solid wrestling and striking program and still does. And I had I would say a good jujitsu program. I mean, we were winning team titles as one of the smallest teams at the at the tournaments
hmm
and winning super fight. So again, that's how that partnership started, but that's what really threw the fuel on the fire for the MMA. And now I've got 3 or 4 guys that fight MMA, do very well. In fact, one of my guys, who's a white belt, been training 6 months. He already competed twice, done well. Picked up some striking from Jacob, and got fight of the night at the last MMA event. So we're putting out some
gosh,
really good folks, man. But again, kind of circling back, the whole draw to MMA was just I had students that wanted to do it. And I'm
yeah,
the kind of guy like, hey, we're gonna figure it out. It's I don't know if it's that entrepreneurial bug that I have. I don't know. You just figure stuff out. If you want it,
yeah.
if there's a goal, you're gonna figure out a way to make that goal happen. And so I think that was a draw to MMA. I just had students that wanted to do it, and especially after we started getting some success, more folks in the community were like, "Oh, they're doing MMA now. Let's go check it out." So that kind of built up the program a little bit more too.
Do you like being involved in MMA? Do you like the culture? Do you like what do you like about it?
I do. I do. I love it. I think I have more fun at a jujitsu tournament because I like watching kids win and do jujitsu. I think that's a little more
Sure.
my speed. But I do love MMA, especially when my students win with jujitsu. Obviously, a good knockout is pretty cool to watch. But like for
Mm,
example, my student DJ, the one I was talking about earlier, he was going up against a kickboxer, like a solid kickboxer. I'm like, listen, DJ, we don't need to stand on our feet and trade blows with solid kickboxer. Your forte is jujitsu. Get that fight to the ground and play jujitsu. And that's what he did. And he was able to use fundamental jujitsu takedowns. He actually got taken down one time, was in bottom side control, escaped to close guard. His opponent stood up, did a basic double ankle sweep, got on top, and was able just to finish him from mount. And when you see
mm.
your students' jujitsu work when
Yeah.
punches and kicks are on the table, it just makes you proud as a coach. It makes you proud for your students. It truly shows you that what you're teaching at that gym is working. Because if you're not, man, if you're not out there going to tournaments or going to or putting your students in MMA, it's hard to test your mettle, and I think it can be very easy to fall into this trap of thinking you're a lot better than you are. And
Mhm.
man, I say that humbly because the first couple tournaments we were getting smoked. We were getting, I'm a
Yeah,
purple belt trying to figure out how to teach a competition class because I never really done that. And I remember
yeah.
like our first Naga, it's like Naga Nationals. And it was in Foley, Alabama, big tournaments in the summer, and like all of my students are getting smoked. And I could have went home defeated, and I kind of did. But I was like, you know what? We got to learn from this. We got to figure out. All right, so our mount escapes weren't that good across the board. Our sweep from this position wasn't that good across the board. So that's what we're going to focus. And over the years, like I said, we are now winning team titles, or at least making podium as one of the smallest gyms there, going against gyms from Destin and Fort Walton, Panama, and Tallahassee, and out of state, Jacksonville. But it's
Mm,
because, thankfully, my students adopted that same mindset as if we lose, we learn. Like win or lose, we learn. And if we lose, we take that that pain of the loss and we use it as fuel to come back stronger. We work on our weaknesses. So we don't give up. We just come back stronger. And that over the years has developed into a really, really strong competition program and a really, really strong MMA program as well.
yeah. I bet, training, practicing your jujitsu on an MMA fighter, also improves your, real life application of jujitsu in a real life fight, right? Of course,
Oh, a
because
thousand
in real
percent.
life, it's not the norm. You're going to go up against another jujitsu guy.
Exactly, exactly. And again, if you're not doing MMA a little bit, there's plenty of great gyms out there that don't have any interest in MMA. I'm not trying to knock them at all. But if you're too focused on tournament style jujitsu, where you're playing to specific rule sets all the time, you might have a really good rubber guard or a really good, lapel guard or whatever, a really nice, I don't know, leg entry, but what if there's punches involved? You know what I mean? Like, what if you had to defend yourself out there? And it goes back to the fundamentals, the basics of distance management, win the takedown, get on top, stay on top.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's really cool to see that
What,
happen in MMA.
what do you feel like jujitsu has done for your life? If you had to sum it up.
Man, um, well, like I was talking about previously, it's been the constant for the last 11 years, regardless of the highs, the high highs, like the birth of my boys, marrying my wife, and the lows of the lowest. You know what I'm saying? Like losing my baby boy at 24 weeks. Like no parents ever go through that. But jujitsu is always there. It was my constant. It's produced some of my best friends, two of my best buds, River and Josh, the friendship started on the mats. And now we're raising our kids together. We hunt together, we fish together, we do all kinds of stuff together. And I know if something went down, they would always have my back. But it's also on a personal level, it's given me so much confidence. You walk into a room and even if you've been training for a couple years, you've got a skill set that the average person doesn't have. You've put yourself through adversity. You've gotten beat up. But you've learned things. You've learned how to. You've enhanced your mental strength. You've got fortitude now. Because if you didn't, you probably would have quit. Um, so you gain confidence through jujitsu, and I've seen it with my kids that started that same batch I was talking about earlier, and some newer ones. They walked in really young and shy and timid and would barely look at you in the eye. And now, you see them out in the community and their heads up, they're talking to everybody. They just have this confidence because they've faced so much adversity. They've grown from it, and they also know that they have these skill sets because they have um, tried them out in competition. And I can't tell you
Mm.
how often, especially three of my girls really, um, they get bumped up in weight classes. They got to fight boys a lot, and they dominate, submit them.
Yeah, I
Um,
never thought of that aspect of, girls get going up against boys and of course, what that does for their confidence, the girls.
so yeah, the confidence, man. And again, on a personal level, just being able to walk into a room or social situation and just being like, if I had to defend myself, I know I could. It's just
Yeah,
you can't buy it, man. You have to earn it. You can go buy a
yeah,
black belt from Amazon, but that's not going to give you what we get here and here. Um, that we get that through training. We get that through facing adversity. We get that through being the nail forever. Oh, now you feel pretty good and you've won some tournaments. Let's go to this open mat at this other gym. And now this guy's mauling you and he's reminding you there's levels. There's always someone better than you. There's always someone to learn from.
yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is always evolving. So there's always new things to learn. So it keeps you humble, but it also it gives you a lot of confidence too.
Probably gives you a lot of like subconscious confidence as well.
I
You're
would think so.
walking even in like little micro moments and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just like have this like subconscious confidence. Yeah, not
Yeah.
necessarily thinking about it. What do you think is the reason of people continuously coming back there? Why do you think they love it so much there at the academy?
At my gym particularly
Yes,
or in general?
your place, yeah,
Man,
not your
I think
coffee
s
shop.
well, yeah. No, I think it's well, the coffee shop got good coffee. No, I think it's two things, man. Maybe three things. Number one, the culture. We've had I don't know if you've met Sean Applegate yet. He would be
Not yet.
someone cool to reach out to. He's one of the best black belts around and puts out some of the best black belts around, like Ryan Aiken and Chase Hanna and some other guys. But he's literally been down he spent the night at my house with Chase years ago in my garage, and we trained, and at the end of it, he's like, "Bro, you have better vibes in this garage than so many of the gyms I've been to." But I think that's it. I think we keep this positive, awesome family vibe, and we also train hard. So whatever your goals are, circling back to the 6-year-old folks that I have, they're not competing. They're there once or twice a week. They just want to stay in shape, learn a little self defense, and but they feel welcome. I also in that same class have guys who are fighting MMA this month. You know what I mean? And they also
Mm,
feel welcome. They also know that the training is quality. So
mm,
it's hard to cater to everyone. That's probably the hardest part of of coaching. But I think people come back, and I think people
yeah.
we're in a bit of a vacation destination area, especially with St. George. And year
Hmm.
after year, I have brown belts, purple belts, white belts, black belts, blue belts. Everybody, they come the same week of the year. They reach out, "Hey Matt, I'm in town again. Can I come train?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course, man. Come on." Um,
Hmm.
and I think again, you just got that good vibe. And it's look if a brown belt or black belt shows up. We had this happen. Matter of fact, a couple months ago, I think his name's Tyree. That's how you pronounce it. We've rolled together for 2 years. Certainly, every time he comes out, he comes to trains. And he's a brown belt, I'm black belt, and he was kind of whooping up on me. I'm not gonna lie. And but anytime he would catch me, I'm like, bro, show me that butterfly, that butterfly sweep you did. You kept running on me. Show me how to do that. And I think when you're a guest at a gym and you're like, all right, these guys aren't here to prove anything. They're here to genuinely learn and just train hard and get better. Um, I really think people they gravitate towards that. They gravitate towards again being surrounded by good people, but also good training. And we have both of those. We got good folks, and the goobers that have started, they get filtered out. They get filtered out quick. So if you've stuck around for any length of time, you're a good person. You got a good heart. Got a good head on your shoulders. Um, and again, just good folks, good vibes, good train.
But what would you tell somebody who hasn't trained before, who's thinking about it? What kind of advice would you give them?
So don't overthink it. don't be like, I'm out of shape. Jujitsu will get you into shape. You don't have to get
Okay.
into shape to start jujitsu. Just do it. But I think more importantly than that, almost every gym is going to offer at least one free class. We offer a free
Cool.
week. Some gyms do a free week, at least, but most gyms offer at least one free class. Look at your route to work or whatever, like look at the perimeter of your house and see how many gyms are there and just go take a free class of all of them. Literally all of them. Go do one free class at this one on a Tuesday, go do a free class on this one on a Thursday, and you will find, I think, where you fit in. Because again, some gyms, and this is rare, I think, but some gyms, it's just the egomaniac. They're not friends. They're not there to be friends. Um, I think that's rare. Um, some gyms, just because you're a black belt doesn't make you a great person or a moral person, and I think you can pick up on that pretty quickly. Uh, but when you go to a gym, just like I was saying at the onset of this interview, when I went into Professor Vick's gym, met him and his wife, met some of the guys at the gym, I knew instantly. I was like, these guys are cool folks. They're obviously training hard because I saw them over there rolling. And he took the time to get to know me. He's just welcoming. And so I think two things: don't overthink it. Don't feel like you got to get into shape first. Jiu-jitsu will do that for you, and then go to a class. Just try it out. They'll have a gi you can borrow, um, and you should know pretty quickly if it's the right fit for you or not.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to ask
Talking about
questions.
going to all the gyms and trying them out, like so many people say that, so many owners say that, and I think it actually speaks to like what jujitsu is for most people, and that is a community, a family, right? Yeah, because when they say that, they say, find the one that's right for you, because that's what it
Right.
becomes, a
Right.
family. Yeah, so that's
And I
interesting.
suppose you, to a degree, again, this goes back to don't overthink it. You got to kind of somewhat be aware of your goals. If your goals are just to get into shape, cool. There's
Mm,
gyms for that. Get and learn jujitsu, right? But if you know you want to compete, you should do a little research on the gym. Make sure they got a competition program. Last thing you want to do is go spend this money and spend 6 months at a gym that doesn't care to compete at all. When your goal is to be a competitor. When I
yeah,
started,
it's
competition,
not only about the culture, it's about, you need to
your
be
goals.
specific with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like when I started my journey, I kind of had my eye on competition because I'd done it so long as a kid doing Taekwondo, but it was never really like an immediate goal. In fact, I was almost too embarrassed, to, like tell Professor Vick I want to compete, because you know how many people you say that when they start and then they quit 3 months later because they can't handle the grind. So I didn't even bring it up. But you better believe I did like scroll his Facebook just to make sure there was some like MMA going on and some competitions going on. And so again, it's a perfect fit there with the family environment, but also like putting out competitors, putting out MMA guys. So just be kind of aware of your goals, but at the end of the day, don't overthink it. Just go to a class, man. Just reach out to the owner, shoot him an email, call him, Facebook, whatever. But hey, I'm so and so. I'm interested in the class. When can I come? And one of two things is going to happen. They're going to brush you off, and you're like, all right, well, I don't need to go there. Or they're going to be like, hey, Cody, we got adult class Tuesday at 5:30. Come check us out, man. And you're like, all right, I already feel invited because it can be intimidating, especially if you don't know much jujitsu. All you know is like UFC and like, man, these guys, they're choking each other out. They got to all be like these tough guys and bad attitudes. Man, that is not the majority of jiu-jitsu folks. The majority of jiu-jitsu folks, in my experience in 11 years, they're good people. And I think jiu-jitsu has made them better people because they've had to face adversity. They've been humble for years. They've won, they've lost. And yeah, man, just take your first class.
Yeah. And the height of jiu-jitsu is not about adrenaline and power and strength. It's about technique,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's about solving a puzzle, the mental aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just looks that way, from the
I agree.
outside.
It's spot on for sure.
Thank you, man, for your story, bro. Thank you for sharing it. It's a really
Yeah.
cool story, dude, going from the garage and what the stuff that you've been through. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad jujitsu found you because I know it's doing a lot for a lot of people. And Yeah, bro. I'll talk to you soon, man. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna let you have some of that coffee. I know you got plenty. You got some from where did you get it from?
I just got some in from Colombia and Mexico. It's raw, so I got to roast it. So this place is about to smell really, really good.
I almost said China and Mexico. That was no, I'll let him say what it is. I
Yeah,
don't want to say
Colombia and
wrong.
Mexico.
China. Okay, dude. Yeah, my wife is Vietnamese actually, and they have really good coffee, of course, in Vietnam. I've been a couple times.
Yeah,
What
I
is it
bring it
called?
in Robusta.
What's yeah, yeah, Robusta coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I bring Robusta in from
Um,
Vietnam.
but it's like you have to make it the way they make it, when you get the beans, yeah, you have to do it a certain way. But
Yeah,
yeah, you have to get the don't get the mix of Robusta in is it Arabica? Is that how you
Arabica.
say it?
Yeah.
Arabica, unless you want to mix. But anyways, all right, man. A breeze is flowing. I'm gonna take a walk. It's good to
Hey,
talk to you today, bro.
enjoy
Thank you
it,
so
brother.
much.
Appreciate you. All right, see ya.
Yeah, you too, buddy. See you later.
All right, man.
What's up, man? How's it going today?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Sitting in the parking lot at a public library in Gulf Shores because my son's going to zoo camp this week, and it's raining, so I can't be outside. So yeah, we're good. We'll make it happen. Um, can you tell me like your first and last name, the name of the place, where you are? Um, talk about the place, what kind of classes you guys offer, that kind of stuff.
My name is Brandon Nelson. I'm the owner and head instructor of Rise Up Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. We're in Kennesaw, Georgia. We have a split schedule because I was a 10 planet guy for a long time. And then I
Oh,
also
okay.
switched over to training in the gi. So our schedule's pretty split. Monday, Wednesdays is our no gi days, and then Tuesday, Thursdays is our gi days. We offer judo on Fridays, which I think is very important because a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms really lack takedowns. And then we also have a pretty extensive schedule for our kids program as well because I'm very adamant about our kids program. Um,
What's the youngest age
that's one of
there?
the reasons. So we've got kids from 3.
Oh,
Usually we
wow.
don't let 3-year-olds start. I have to really kind of
Yeah.
interview them. Um, but 4 to 7 is our youngest class. We call that our little Phoenix class. And then we've got our junior class, which is the 7 to 13-year-olds. And
Okay.
that's honestly our largest our largest classes is usually our juniors classes.
Okay.
Because the parents love how I literally treat our juniors program just like an adult class. Um,
Okay.
I feel like it's important for them to feel like they have that responsibility at that age. And I mean, kids. I've been teaching for a very long time, so I think a lot of people like don't really think about like their kids program as far as like I've seen where a lot of gyms will play like games. We don't really play games at our school. So it's working out really well. For the little phoenixes, I've come up with the idea of we play what I call jujitsu games to get them excited because the psychological aspect of it. But literally, it's just situationals and positional sparring. Um,
Mm.
and our kids program since I took over the school in January has really exploded just from
Okay.
doing those things right there. And I'm very adamant about it because um, I didn't know how scary it was for kids nowadays until I started like listening to some of like the Sean Ryan podcast and really reading into like all the online stuff.
What
That
was it
seems like it's
saying? What
gotten
was it
worse.
saying?
Well, was just talking about it's now 1 in 4 kids are approached online by
Oh,
predators and
okay.
stuff like that.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
And that hacker that was talking about all that stuff. And that's honestly horrifying, man. I mean, kids should be
Uh-huh.
kids. Kids should you know, my parents put me in taekwondo when I was 6 years old, and I think martial arts is a great thing for the community, and I think that it's a great thing, especially for kids. So I'm very adamant about our kids program. I'm very adamant about jujitsu, but I'm very adamant about our kids program.
What about the
And
older
it's
kids?
showing because
The older kids, you treating it like an adult class, is that kind of unique in jujitsu as far as, academies go?
um I can I don't really know. I just know what I've heard. So
Yeah.
I've heard
Just
a
tell us
lot
your
of
perspective, yeah.
jujitsu schools will play games and they won't take it seriously. And then some schools will do exactly what we're doing. So I think that it just kind of depends on the academy.
Mhm.
But I personally think that I don't really think I feel like I know. The kids are very capable. And
Yeah.
that's why we just took second as a team at the PBJJF 2 weekends ago. Um so and our kids program is going to continue to grow, and we're going to I think we'll probably produce a world champion out of this gym in at least 5 years, with all the
No.
changes and stuff that I've made and I'm doing, running our programs now.
It sounds like you really love teaching, right?
So I'm pretty confident. Yeah, it was kind of forced on me, and I just kind of embraced it. So I'm very passionate about it. So, and it's something that's I never really expected to turn into a career, but I've been pushed down this path. Because
Mhm.
I've helped open another Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. So shout out to them, Jason Hamilton at Scramble Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Wrestling in Rome, Georgia. They're a
Mhm.
phenomenal school. So I helped open that school when it opened up. And then we kind of went our different ways, and we're still really close friends. So they run a really, really tough gym there in Rome, Georgia. And he's a really good dude. So
Maybe I can help
definitely
you out.
recommend reaching out to him. He's a
Yeah, I
phenomenal
will.
black belt. He's been training for a long time.
What about instructors there? Do you wanna
So
highlight any instructors there? They're at the academy?
so as far as our instructors go, so I have Professor Andrew Wiggins. He's not really like nationally famous, but a lot of black belts around him know of him and know him. He's a phenomenal coach. He teaches 2 nights a week here. And he's my right hand man essentially. He's goes above and beyond. He's very passionate about jujitsu. He's been doing jujitsu, I think, for 17, 18 years, something like that.
Mhm.
So that's my main instructor. So some of our other instructors is Professor Vincent. He's a Brazilian top team 3rd degree black belt. He's been around for a very, very long time. He comes from Boston. Um, and then we also have Professor Alex, um, who fought Nate Diaz in the WEC right when the UFC bought
Oh.
them out. So
Oh.
shout out Nate Diaz if you ever see this podcast. He wants a rematch. You were just talking about him, so let's make it happen. We'll run it back. So we ain't scared around here. Um, but he's really, really good. So we're really lucky to have him. He's been training for a very, very long time. We've got Coach Jamie, who's a brown belt. He's a seasoned competitor. So he's a police officer here in Kennesaw. So shout out to him. My Coach Johnny Chamberlain, she's a seasoned competitor. So she doesn't teach here anymore. She moved to Michigan. But she does pop in from time to time. And then you got me. So I'm just a hobbyist that loves to coach and loves to teach. So it's
Where's
kind of
Kennesaw,
something that
Georgia? Where's that?
so we're right outside of Atlanta. I'd say we're like 35 minutes outside of Atlanta.
Is it
Um,
north or south? Where?
we would be considered north.
Okay.
So because south would be going into the city. I think,
Mhm.
yeah, something like that.
Like it's just north of Atlanta. That's what I meant, right? Just north of Atlanta. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well,
well, it'd
tell
be
me about
south
your
because
story, man. Tell me as far back as you want to go. Tell us like kind of how you got into jujitsu,
yeah.
why
So,
you love it, all that kind of stuff.
um, as far as my story goes, it's not the normal story for jiu-jitsu. I tell people that all the time because a lot of people have various stories. And I did a backyard MMA fight when I was 17. Because I was a competition taekwondo black belt. I've done boxing, Muay Thai, stuff like that. So not really scared of to stand up with someone. I got took down by a wrestler who was doing jiu-jitsu, and he submitted me with a Kimura. So that was my first introduction into jiu-jitsu. And then I kind of got out of martial. I got into like MMA for a little while because that was when MMA was first getting popular, and then I got out of martial arts completely. And then in college, I was just kind of partying, drinking. I felt like I was just generally being unhealthy, and I wasn't really happy.
Mhm.
So, picked martial arts back up, started teaching taekwondo, um, and got back in. And I took my first jujitsu class, fell in love with it, and then I've just kind of stuck with it ever since.
Mhm.
Um, and overly dedicated, more than most, so I train a lot. um,
What is a
so
lot? What is a lot? What is a lot?
I've
Every
always
day?
trained, 5, 6 days a week for
Yes.
over a decade.
Oh
And
man.
I mean, right now my training schedule now, with me teaching and coaching and stuff, I'm probably on the mats at least 40, 50 hours a week, somewhere around there. Um,
Mhm.
so
How
I,
did you
I'm trying.
how did you fall in love with teaching jujitsu? Do you love teaching? I mean, it sounds like you like teaching in its own right. Had you always been that way before jujitsu, or kind of how did that spring up? The teaching part. Sounds like you're passionate
No,
about
actually,
teaching.
I really didn't ever think this would be a pathway for me. And I never really thought I was gonna be a coach. Because I remember back in the day, I'd hear a lot, you know, um, a lot of negative stuff from coaches and stuff like that. You're a blue belt. You're a dumb blue belt. You don't know what you're talking about. And that's something that I've never really liked. I think that you should treat people with respect. And kept getting forced into the role of teaching. My coach would be like, "Hey, will you teach some classes?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll help you out." And then it just kind of, I like seeing people succeed. Um, I want I'm hoping that, one day my training partners are as good as me, if not better. I think that's kind of the goal as a coach, is to bring people up and not put them down.
Mhm.
And I know for a fact several of my kids are going to be nightmares to deal with as adults. I already got
Mhm.
one kid. He's a phenom. So I'm super excited when he becomes an adult. I hope he sticks with it. Because that
When
is
you're
the one
talking like
problem.
when you're saying kid, are you talking about like older than 7 or 7 and younger as well? What do you
He's 11. He's been
Okay.
training, I think, for like 3 or 4 years now. And he's just one of those kids that gets it. He's the one of the best kids I've ever seen. And you know, he's the kid that in kids class I literally can handicap him and make like I tell him he has to get 20 points before he can get a sub, and he'll do it. He'll literally get 20 points before he will get a sub.
Okay.
So he is going to be a problem. And then some of the kids that are coming up with him are getting used to dealing with him. So,
Okay.
you know, and that's in jiu-jitsu. If you've got a couple guys or a couple people that, you know, 3 to 5 guys, they say 5 is kind of what you really need. And that can really bring the room up. Um,
Mm.
so, and I'm really excited to see where we're at 10 years from now. Because I think we're really building a really strong program. Um, so
What
I'm
about
really excited to see where we're at.
what is the like age what is the starting age for competition? I mean, is it 7 years? I mean, what is the number for competition?
I'm not sure the exact age. I know we just had a 6-year-old compete. Professor Vincent's little boy is
Mm.
one of my students. And he competed 2 weeks ago, and he's 6. I
Okay.
think it's 5 or 6, something like that. But don't quote me
Yeah.
on it. So I'm sure I'll
Maybe
get
the different place,
chastised or
different
flipped in the
competition
chat.
has
But,
different, yeah. They probably have different ages and yeah, and weights and everything. Okay. So when you said you were kind of like forced into teaching, you know, what did that mean? How did that come about?
well, you know, I mean, I just kept getting asked if I would teach, and everyone
Yeah.
was liking my classes and coming to my classes, and um, you know, it was just something that I just kind of embraced. I've never been one to like want to be the center of attention or like have to be like the person everyone focuses on.
Yeah.
So it's never something I've really had the desire for. So, um, but and I, you know, and it is a skill. Coaching is a skill that I think you really have to kind of embrace and won't. Um, or if you don't, it kind of shows. So and carrying a class is pretty hard. I mean,
Mm.
it's not as easy as just going up and teaching a move. I mean, you get a lot of people that can be instructors. That's different. But coaching is being more involved than that. So there's a lot that goes into coaching. But I really care about people, and you know, I think creating a positive academy with positive vibes and stuff like that is a big deal. But it shows. We've been growing a lot over the past couple months, so
Okay.
um we're really seeing a lot of growth.
What do you think people like about your coaching? Have you ever, I'm sure you've thought of that.
I'm just involved. You know, I think like because sometimes some coaches will, you know, sit on the wall. They'll show a move and they'll sit on the wall.
Mm.
And you know, I really care about them getting better. I think you try to help them. You show the move, teach the move, try to go in as much detail as you can that doesn't overwhelm them. And then you kind of, you know, help them because, you know, um, I've learned that, you know, it doesn't matter how good my technique is, I can show a move perfectly and you know, maybe 1 or 2 people who are upper belts will get it, and then the rest is gonna end up messing it up at some point, which is fine. You know,
No.
it's a game of trial and error, and that's why you drill is to get better. I tell people all the time, it's okay to fail. I need you to try though. Failure is fine. Not trying at all is, you know, really not acceptable. So it's one of those things where you've got to put effort forth. And that's, you know, that's what I do, and because I feel like it's been received very well. Um, But I also try to make sure I'm not overbearing. I want to let you kind of troubleshoot it yourself, so that you don't use me as like a crutch. Because it is a chess game where you're trying to figure out, does this work? No. All right. Does that work? No. Does this work? Yes. All right. So I think
Mm.
that making sure that you're in that fine line where you're showing the technique, teaching them, helping them go through the technique, but also not being overbearing. Is
Yeah.
kind of how I run my classes.
Sounds like you're like
Because
mentally and really involved, right? I mean, you're actively trying to improve your coaching and all that kind of stuff. You're there, you're present and trying to figure out, what's the best thing for them in the present time, right? You're not just sitting back. Um, what about is there something positive that you brought from taekwondo, whether it be mental or physical, into jujitsu?
well, in my kids program, I talk about respect, discipline, self-control. And I try to like make sure that I stress that. I do make my kids say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Mhm.
So that's something that we do at our academy. I get that's not for everyone, but that's something in Taekwondo that I remember that's in the South. My parents, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of something that we implemented when I took over our kids program. And that's kind of what I picked up from Taekwondo. Um,
Yeah,
so
the respect
that's
part.
yeah. And well, I mean, it's going to carry them. The most kids, that's what their parents are bringing them to martial arts for, at least from my experience from talking to parents, is, they're trying to get their kids to
Okay.
calm down, trying to get them to be more respectful, and if I help them in life, as far as hopefully these little things will help them, get a better job. It'll help them carry themselves better. Those are
Mhm.
things I care about, um, because I want them to grow up and be positive members to society. And, um, I think as a coach, and especially a kids coach, I think it also, I'm there to help, you guys as a parent, because you're a parent.
Mhm.
I try to talk to my parents, and I'm there to, be that third voice so that the kids understand, because the kids sometimes when it's the parent talking, they're like, well, you're just they think it's, still kind of socially acceptable or stuff like that. And having, someone to back the parents up to help you guys, I feel
Yeah.
like is also important. Um, so also I try to make sure my kids have good grades and stuff like that. So that's something that
Oh,
Taekwondo did. Um, because
that's good.
I'm ultimately like, you guys like, the way I look at it is, you guys, are trying to get a break, and you're bringing them here to learn a skill. And um my goal is to help you guys not be as stressed out. um so I know raising kids can be stressful, so um
Yeah, I haven't heard a jujitsu academy owner talk about that aspect as much as you have, as far as talking about the respects thing, bringing over from taekwondo and the grades even. That's pretty cool. I haven't heard that before. I mean, you're at least bringing up grades and talking about it. That's pretty cool, man. What about if you could tell everybody kind of what has jujitsu done for you in your personal life?
I mean, jujitsu for me, probably one of the greatest things it has taught me is, in a society where we're so used to instant gratification, it's not a thing, you know. Um,
Mhm.
there's no time, like, there's no replacement for time. Time on the mats. The more time you put in, the more fruitful you're gonna see the results from. But at the same time, um, you know, there's no cheat code. That no matter how bad you want that instant gratification, um, at the end of the day, there's no replacement for that time. And I think that
Yeah.
kind of carries over into life, honestly, because I think, especially adults, we give up on stuff pretty quickly. And I mean, really, when you look at anybody talk, and this is investors, people who um, really put time and effort into any craft. I mean, 5 to 10 years of really grinding away or really putting effort into something is, really what it takes to see actual results.
Yeah.
But in society nowadays, we just kind of, well, that didn't work out, so we're gonna give up and move on. And you see that a lot, unfortunately. But I think,
Well, I
like,
think we're so
learning
blessed
that,
here.
you know,
We're so blessed, in the time that we're in, and you know, uh, that we just have so much abundance. So many options in
Mhm.
every regard. Yeah, that it feels like you
Yeah,
can
well, I
jump to
mean,
something else, and there's a chance that it may work out in the time frame that you want. So I think that's a part of the reasoning, that that's true. Yeah, I think the older you get to, the more you learn that lesson of sticking with something, putting in the time. Even as your day goes on, in work or whatever, you learn that like everything equals time. Everything is determined by how much time you're putting into it. Yeah, whether it be yard work, whether it's something you're working on, jujitsu, whatever. You know.
mhm. Yeah, and I think, that's probably the most valuable lesson that you should carry into, like, your life, from jujitsu. And, I mean, there's so many benefits to jujitsu. You carry yourself differently. You feel better. I mean, and, I've got another business where, I unfortunately deal with, crackheads, and I deal with, lower income people, and, you know, and they tend to resort more towards, yelling at you, cursing at you, and stuff like that. And I think, like, for me, being so used to, training so much, I'm very good at, hey, let's talk about it. Distance management, making sure I'm not close to them,
Mhm.
making sure that there's plenty of distance between us, so that even if they got the slight idea of doing something bad, that, I would have plenty of time to respond. And, I've learned that, you know, um, really, a conversation can kind of fix almost anything. Usually, most people don't know how to communicate, and they
Mm.
don't know how to, um, express that they're upset about something, whether it be something as simple as, um, you know, the machine took a quarter, or,
Yeah.
they didn't close the door right, or, something dumb.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it teaches you a lot of valuable lessons, and I think, but the biggest one is definitely the instant gratification. Um,
Hmm.
and that one is, in my opinion, the most important one. So,
Why do you think people love going there at the academy? Adults and kids. Why do you think they love it there?
um, Well, I think that they love that, I work really hard to make everyone, feel included. I really don't want a cliquey academy, because you do see
Mm,
those from time to time. And we everybody at my academy gets along very well, and um, it's one of those things where, we try to make sure everyone's included, and, we're also here to train jujitsu, and we train hard. And, it's, I think it's just, we're all very passionate about jujitsu, and, it brings together everyone. Jujitsu brings together, um, it's one of those things where it brings together cops, young college kids that are, probably doing stuff that's going to get arrested by the cops. It's it's one of those sports that
yeah.
brings everyone together, and that's something that we I strive to really. I want to make sure that we're really drama free at our gym, and everybody gets along very well. And so far, we've been doing a very good job at it. So, um, but we've actually had students that have left and went to other gyms, and they're coming back when their contract comes up because um,
Okay.
they wanted to see how other gyms are run, and there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage cross training. Um, it's I cross trained a lot coming up, so I think
Mm,
encouraging people to see other gyms and see how it's ran is healthy. Um, but you know, it's just the community that we're building here is everybody gets along, and that's how we want it to stay.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so don't
Yeah.
ever want anyone, even people that from out of town, to not feel welcome. That's never something we want at our academy.
I think when somebody comes back, yeah, it usually means there's something deep there. There's something like they just feel more comfortable there. Yeah. Yeah. They're going back to, you could say their comfort zone in a sense, but that's what it is. They're more comfortable. So, what about, if somebody's thinking about putting their kid in jujitsu or thinking about training, um, what would you tell them about jujitsu? What it could possibly do for them. Okay.
I just I let my classes kind of talk for themselves. We encourage everybody to try a free class and see if um, you know, we fit the vibe for you and your family. So I try to answer any and all questions about jiu-jitsu to the best of my ability. And it's kind of worked out for me so far.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
um
what do you think that jujitsu can do for people? What it can do? What can it do for a kid?
It can keep them out of trouble. It can keep them out of trouble. I think it's great for kids with ADHD. Coming from someone that's got ADHD.
Mm,
I mean, I think a real good structured class. Um, not only is going to teach them self defense, but it's going to teach them that working out doesn't have to just be lifting weights. And it really is healthy for them. And I mean, it will help them in other sports. I mean, it can help them in wrestling. It can help them in football. I mean, there's so many benefits Brazilian Jiu Jitsu does for kids. Like, there's literally a super long list. I mean, I make social media posts about it all the time.
yeah, yeah,
But I would say probably like the biggest one is the respect thing, and making sure that the kids are respectful, and you know
yeah.
not I think that is the biggest gain they probably get from my program.
Most parents, when they're taking their kids to martial arts, they have that in the back of their mind of that's going to be a part of it as well. So they probably welcome that education and respect. One thing that you said was the ADHD thing. That's very interesting. I agree. Well, I think that is probably true. Is they're having to they're having to focus on one thing, and they're having to be very, 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 very present and patient in jujitsu. Do you think that's why it helps people with ADHD?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for me at least, from my perspective, I think there's more than one thing going on. You have to learn how to use your hands, your arms, your head, your legs, sometimes all at the same time. Sometimes, one of my blue belts was joking with me. He was like, "You always have four limbs on me all the time." And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I've always, you know, making sure that I've got all my bases covered.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's very active, and it's very challenging. So it's a mental challenge and a physical challenge.
Yeah.
So and there's always a new problem to solve. And one
Okay.
day you'll think you'll have something figured out, and then you turns out you don't. So
Sure. Sure.
it's I think that for kids with ADHD really kind of helps them, because you're not having to sit still, unless you're drilling or obviously watching the move. But when you're rolling and stuff, you're not having to sit still. You can be energetic and use your mind, and
Yeah.
you know all the things that are always on. So um,
Yeah. Actually, more so than a lot of other martial arts, right? As far as being able to move around and being able to talk more too, right? Um, between
yeah,
rolling
I
and
when I did taekwondo, I was really good at like the sparring stuff, but I hated the katas. I'm not really good at sitting still. It's one of those things where, um, learning the kata, being slow, being methodical, making sure that you're going through every movement correctly, and having to remember it on top of that. And then my mind's already thinking about other stuff. I mean, it
yeah.
was very difficult for me to memorize all of that, just because, yeah, it was hard for me to focus to watch the entire thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you so much for your story, dude. You got a cool story. I'm sure you bring up. It sounds like you bring some cool stuff from Taekwondo into Jiu-Jitsu, and it sounds like you're building a really cool. You got a lot of excitement going on there. A lot of people are interested in the place, and you guys are booming, right? The last few months.
yeah, yeah, we're growing, man. It's been awesome. So we did a little soft rebrand,
Oh,
just
okay.
color change and stuff like that when I bought the business from my coach, and we've been growing ever since. And very blessed and very happy with how things are going so far. And I think that um I would think in August we're going to see a really um, positive upward trend. So I'm really excited for August. Usually summertime's kind of a dead season for jiu-jitsu, just because people don't train as much, traveling and stuff like that. But
That was going
um,
to be my next question. Is it busier or slower? 'Cause you would think it would be busier because the school's out, but then you think it'd be slower because the school's out. They're gone traveling.
well, I mean, as far as like our adult program is slower, our junior program isn't as busy. We do have some parents that do pause during the summer because of other summer activities. But I
Okay.
mean, all together, our juniors class is always, pretty packed on gi nights. So it's one of those things where we've always got several kids on the mats when it's gi night for the juniors. So
Mm. Well, I hope you have a good day, man. Thanks for talking, and yeah, I really appreciate it, buddy. And I hope everything continues
thank you,
to
brother.
go. Maybe you can be on again. We can check in again in like August or something, or September, to see how everything's going.
Yeah, feel free to reach out anytime, brother. This has been fun, and y'all, if y'all are ever in the area, stop by anytime, brother.
Sometimes we go to
we
Atlanta.
welcome
Yeah.
all affiliations. So everyone is always welcome at our gym. So we're
Awesome.
always really friendly.
Yeah,
So,
next time we're in Atlanta,
but
I'll reach out to you, see if we can stop by. That'd be good.
cool, man. Well, thank you
Alright.
for reaching out. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. So
For sure, buddy. You have a good day. Thanks, Brandon.
you too. Bye.